Welcome back, everyone, to Radiant Resilience. I am very excited for this conversation today. I have actually had a lot of friends on the podcast lately, so this is the first time in a while that I've had a new person on. I have with me today Tracy Smaldino. She is the host of the Trauma Rockstars podcast. She's a keynote speaker, and she has a memoir coming out at the end of this year, and she likes to help people through their trauma journeys, which must be really rewarding and also challenging at the same time. Welcome, Tracy. How are you?
Thanks. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Your virtual friend.
Yeah. So, I'm going to let you kind of start. It sounds like you've had quite the journey yourself. Some pretty hard stuff happening. So, I know you were in a car accident when you were young and stuff. So, I'm going to let you kind of start wherever you feel is right for your journey and your story.
Sure. I'll give you kind of a high level, and then you just let me know what questions you have in between there, and we can dig deep into everything. But yes, when I was 12 years old, I was the only survivor of a horrific auto accident. I lost both my cousins. I had a major head injury. I had to learn how to read, write, walk, talk all over again. And just to add to it, I had second and third degree burns on 70% of my body. So any of my injuries could have killed me. They were horrible. And I don't know if you know anybody that's been a burn survivor, your journey never ends.
Really?
Like, you're never healed. Yeah. I still to this day have issues, like residual effects from the burns.
Is it like
still
nerve damage type stuff?
I did not have nerve damage, but I'm very sensitive to extreme heat and extreme cold. When you're burned, your body doesn't sweat in those areas like other people's bodies. You sweat to, get all that toxins out of your system. And so I can literally, and the extreme heat bothers me more than the cold, but I can be out and literally go from 100 to 0 in a second. If I can get heat exhaustion so quick because my body's just not sweating. And I look much better now because when I was 12, I was like, 75 pounds maybe. So 70% of your body then is a lot different. I'm a grown woman now, but when you're burned, your journey is just lifelong. You're never fully healed from that. So that it took a lot. It was years and years of surgeries. I would spend 6 weeks at a time. I would go to Shriners Hospital, which is incredible. They're unbelievable. And I would go to Shriners Hospital for like 6 weeks at a time and have procedures done. And this went on for a few years. And fast forward a few years, I was just trying to be a normal teenager. I was in high school. I was with my friends that had been with me through my whole journey. And I was just trying to live somewhat of as normal as I could, high school life.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to a high school party with a bunch of friends. And
as we all do.
Yeah, like any high school party, you just don't know who's going to be there. And everyone knew my story. It was a very high profile case. It was all over the news. The police were involved. So everyone knew my story. But at that party, I was drugged and sexually assaulted by several boys.
Several.
Oh
my gosh.
And I don't remember a lot of it. I remember there were at least 3 involved. But because I was drugged, it was you're in and out and you don't really know what's going on. And I don't want to say I was targeted, but everyone knew my story. You know what I mean? So
let's go ahead.
And I just want to tell you, because of that, because my accident when I had it was such a, like I said, such high profile. The police were involved. It was all over the news. When that assault happened, I didn't tell a soul. I was like, because I knew my parents would call the police. I didn't want that again. And I knew they'd pull me out of school with the only friends that I had, and I'm like, where am I going to go to school? Back then, they didn't have homeschooling and all this stuff. It was a very different years ago. And so I suppressed, and I never really even had the proper treatment after my accident, because even back then, people weren't talking about, trauma and your nervous system and, and what you have to do to heal and things and setting boundaries and all. They didn't have the tools they have now. We have so much more available to us. So I never really had the help I needed. I honestly, except for the doctors in the hospital, I didn't feel there was a person in the world out there that could help me and that nobody could understood. So, be quiet and keep my mouth shut and don't ruffle any feathers, so I didn't talk so I suppressed it for decades and decades and decades. And I really, to be honest, Tawny, I did not start my healing journey until about 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So anyone listening, let me be an example of what not to do, because the longer you wait, the harder it is. It's so true what they say.
Yeah.
And,
well, probably the deeper you have to dig, right? Like, because it's been suppressed for so long.
Oh my gosh, so long. And but I do have to say that the other side of it now is incredible. And so I want people, and I can talk more about this, but I want people to understand that it's super scary to just go head into your journey, but you have to. But I want people to be really excited of what's on the other side of that.
Yeah.
But you can't deal with it till you go dive into it,
Yeah. Yeah. It's terrifying and exciting at the same time. Like, for sure, because you do have to face all the hard stuff and you have to deal with it, but it is worth it when you get there.
It is. And you get along the journey, you get little nuggets of signs that things are, the needle's moving, that keep you going. And there's setbacks too. And we can talk about that because I've done a lot of thinking and research and stuff about that. But there are setbacks, but they're important. It's important to have those. So, it's been quite something. And a couple years ago, I wouldn't have been able to sit here and talk to you about this, but now I'm an open book and I feel amazing being able to talk about it. And, and I really want people to be excited about the future and what's ahead. And I've had so many little gifts along this journey that it's been incredible.
I love that. So let's go back to the car accident and unpack that a little bit first. I mean, you've hinted that it was a pretty dramatic situation. Obviously really bad based on your injuries and people died in it. So what happened with the accident? Let's start with that. Like, what?
So it was, my cousin had come out to visit me. We were very close and he was a couple years older than me and we were real close. So it was summer break. So he just came out to visit, and another cousin of ours she was older. She was in her mid to late 20s. She was like, why don't you guys come with me for the day? I'm going to run errands. We'll hang out. We'll go to lunch, super fun for us all to just bond and hang out. And so we did. And we were driving and this was probably pretty early in the morning. I think it was about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. We were driving on the interstate and her car stalled and we were in the center lane. Gosh. And I remember, but it was still that early and it was on a weekend, traffic wasn't crazy, yet, like it would have been during like a rush hour kind of thing. Yeah. So I remember I was in the front passenger seat, no seatbelts, because back then that wasn't a thing, it really wasn't. And I remember I said, why don't we, because the traffic wasn't too bad. I'm like, why don't we get out and run to the side, of the road? And of course she's like, no, these kids are in my care. You're not doing that. Like, she's responsible for us and she's trying to protect us.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, boom, we got smacked from behind by a tractor trailer who didn't see us. And she had this little 2-door car, like it was like a little kind of like a Fiat or like a very small 2-door car. Well, the car blew up. It blew up and it actually split in half, kind of. And my cousin, who was in the back seat, he was actually able to get out and walk out of the car to the side of the road.
Oh,
But when the first responders and everybody came, they couldn't get to the car because it was engulfed in flames. Now,
wow.
I don't remember any of this,
Mhm.
mind you. And they didn't think anybody survived. And they
Mhm.
saw me have move my hand and they
Mhm.
started screaming for me to get out of the car. So by the grace of God, I reached over and I opened the door and I
Uh-huh.
was able to get myself out, but I was
Mhm.
slipping. I was literally going right through the flames and slipping in the diesel fuel. And then as soon as they could get to me, they got to me,
Yeah.
and I was, flown to the trauma center and everything. But my cousin who got out, he actually died of internal injuries at the hospital.
Really?
Yes, from the impact.
Wow.
Didn't have a scratch on him. It
Wow.
was all internal. Yeah, and this is one of those rare statistics. If I had been wearing my seatbelt, I would have been trapped in the car.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able. There's no way, I don't think mentally I could have, okay, let me take my seatbelt off. Then I'm going to open the door. I don't think I would have made it. I mean, obviously I wear my seatbelt now,
Yeah.
of course and everything, but that's just one of those very rare, like 1% statistics that, I didn't, have it on.
Yeah.
And then my other cousin, she died. She actually died in the car next to me. So I'm kind of grateful I don't remember that part of it. But I was in a coma and in the hospital for a very, very long time. It was a couple weeks before they even told me they didn't make it
Oh, wow.
because they wanted to make sure I was stable and I could
Yeah.
handle it.
Yeah.
Cause I kept asking, like, where is, like, my cousin's name was Jamie and Judy was my other cousin who was driving. Like, where's Jamie? Where's Judy? Where are they? Where are they? And so they couldn't keep it from me any longer.
Mhm.
They finally, here I thought maybe they were on another floor in the hospital. And I'm like, why aren't they
Yeah.
coming to see me? Why can't I go see
Mhm.
them? So it was a really long time. And this is so funny because I didn't even know my name. They kept asking what my name was because we didn't have IDs. We didn't have cell phones
Mhm.
back then. They were trying to figure out who I was to get a hold of my parents. And you know who called my mother? The
Mm.
morgue.
Oh my gosh.
You would have thought like some police officers would have showed up to be there with her
Yeah.
because my dad was at work, I think,
Mhm.
if I remember correctly. The morgue called my mother.
That's
And
terrifying as a
that's how
mother.
she found out.
Wow.
I know. It was just a shit show, honestly.
I
But
mean, I've always wondered how they like you see in the movies, they like show up at the door or whatever, but I have some rental properties and one of them caught fire a couple years ago and I found out on the news that my house caught
yeah,
fire. I'm like, again, I thought like a fireman or
yeah,
somebody or a police officer or somebody from the city would have called the owners of the house to let them know it caught on fire. And no, I found out on the news and then I had to call them to find out. So,
yeah. I mean, and I think they've improved. They've
mm,
gotten a lot better over the years, and now it's so much easier to identify people and things
mhm.
like that. But I was given them the wrong name.
Oh,
I was so
well, you were
confused because
12.
yeah, and my head injury, I had aphasia. So
Mm,
I didn't, it was just such a confusing time. And it tore my family apart, the
really?
accident. My entire family, my extended family, Jamie's parents, of course, it was awful. Like it really tore my family apart. But it also brought me and my parents and my brother much closer too,
Mhm.
because we went
Yeah.
through that together. But it was hard, when families go through that. I think we're better now.
Mhm.
People are more prepared. They've got grief counselors right there
Mhm.
ready to go to help. But back then they just didn't have that yet. This was back in 1982.
So
So,
what was the drama then? Like what I mean, it seems in as the outsider looking in, it seems, it was an accident. It's pretty straightforward. I know
yeah,
they
they
died.
blamed
That's
my
horrible.
parents. They blamed my parents for the accident.
How? They weren't even there.
I know, but when you lose a child,
Yeah.
you don't know how you're going to react. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And nobody really knows, but It was on my father's side of the family that my cousin Jamie was. So they put him through hell. Like they literally put him through hell. And it was just really hard. And, I don't know. I'm not making up excuses for anybody, but I don't know what it's like to lose a child
Sure.
and stuff. Everybody deals with things in different ways.
Yeah.
But, it was just very unfortunate. And, we just had, and so you can imagine with all of this, and then the assault happened. I'm like, if I just forget about it, it'll go away. That's what I thought. At my 15 and a half, 16-year-old age, if I just forget about it, it'll go away. And because we had already been through enough trauma.
Yeah. So was it so high profile where it happened? I mean, obviously it was horrendous, but also because of the family stuff that was going on too?
No, it wasn't. That family stuff was separate. It was more because I think still to this day, it was the third biggest accident in the history of the state.
And what state are you in again?
Well, I'm in Florida now, but this is when I lived in Vegas. This is when I lived in Las Vegas. It happened. Okay. So it was, and every year on the anniversary, they would replay the accident on the news. And it was like for years this went on.
Which is just adding to your trauma. Like, you're like, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Like today's the anniversary of the worst accident we ever had last year. And they'd show, it was just, and now it's social. I mean, thank God we didn't have social media back then, because I feel like it would have been even worse.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and I was very immature. I feel like that set me back years, emotionally and mentally. And I didn't really know how to deal with things. So just set it and forget it. That was my motto, pretty much.
How long were you in the hospital for after the accident?
Well, after the initial accident, once I got out of the coma, it was a couple weeks. But I had to go immediately to Shriners. So, and I went to the one in Boston actually, because they were more specialized in burns there at the time. So I would go to the one in Boston, and I would go, like I said, for 6 weeks at a time. The teachers would give me my homework to take with me, and my mom would come with me. So they'd put her up, kind of like a Ronald McDonald House kind of thing. They would put her up, and my family didn't have to pay for anything.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's an amazing organization. I still talk about them all the time, and I try to be involved as much as I can and everything. But it was a long journey. And so when I probably could have gone on a couple more years for surgeries if I wanted to. I mean, you can do as much or as little as you want, but I had enough.
Sure.
I lost track of how many skin grafts I had, how many. They would do knee surgery on my knee, and then it wouldn't take, and I'd have to have it again. And so I was finally like, enough is enough. And I'm like, I need to live somewhat of a normal high school life.
Well, and that's it. Like, you're also a teenager. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like, you're a teenager, and those years are already hard in themselves. And then you're also dealing with these burns and the surgeries and missing school and all of the things. And I mean, yeah, just that in itself, I'm sure, was traumatic at that age.
Yeah. And with the head injury, school was very difficult for me. I still struggle learning. I really do. I'm so much more better at it now, but I still struggle. And so I probably should have started back in kindergarten. Honestly, my learning capabilities were so awful. I couldn't comprehend anything. And it was so hard. I don't know how I got through. I do not know how I got through school. I had tutors. Like, I would come home from school and I'd have to go sit with a tutor for 4 hours after being in school all day. And I still barely could comprehend everything. Like middle school and high school experiences were awful. I just could not process what they were trying to teach me. And I think if they had homeschooling, because my mom's a teacher. Actually. So I think if they had homeschooling back then, it would have been so much better for me.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, maybe I would have gone into a shell and I didn't have that social exposure. So who the hell knows?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So then when you went to the party.
Yeah.
Were you roofied? Was that the... Or do you know?
I'm assuming, I have no idea.
Mhm.
It was something.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they knew what roofing was back
Sure.
then, honestly, but it may have been. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. But all I know is this party was at an abandoned house. 'Cause
Oh.
you know how, yeah. And I woke up in this empty house. I couldn't find my clothes, my
Oh my
purse. Of course, we
gosh.
didn't have phones or anything back then. And there wasn't a house phone even in this house. And I couldn't, there was not a soul there. Like nobody was there. I woke up in this empty abandoned house. I had to find my clothes and my purse and all this stuff. And I was still so out of it. I remember it was like 5 a.m. or something.
Mhm.
So it was kind of light, starting to get light out. And I don't know. I still don't know. I think I went and knocked on a neighbor's door and asked him to call me a taxi.
Mm. And you didn't
And
have any
that
clothes
I
apparently?
found
Okay.
them. I
Okay.
found them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were like scattered
Mm.
everywhere. And I think I went to a neighbor's and asked them if they could call me a taxi, but that's how I got home. Yeah.
So how did you figure out that it was multiple people and stuff then? Did
Because
you put
I
the pieces together?
remember there's blurry. There's
Mhm.
some,
Yeah.
like I was in and out.
Mhm.
I would, it would, you would kind of wake up and then you'd pass back out again.
Yeah.
It was kind of, and it was very blurry. Everything was blurry, but I know there was at least 3 people involved.
I mean, I was roofied at a concert a few years ago, and I didn't even realize at the time that it had happened, but I was with a girlfriend and nothing bad happened to me. But I remember physically, like, my body just was not functioning the way it was supposed to. Like,
Yeah.
I was in the bathroom because I felt like I needed to puke, and I was trying to text my husband, and my fingers just like, I'm like, why isn't this working? And
Right.
so I got a glimpse into like, I totally understand how they do that to people and then take advantage of them. If somebody had done anything to me like bad like that, I would not have been able to stop them. Like you just,
No,
yeah,
you become like jello
yeah,
almost.
yeah.
And yeah, and now they have those test kits
Hmm.
you can bring,
Yeah,
I guess, with you to test your drink or whatever. It's
yeah.
like it's bad, like what's going on at
Hmm.
bars and stuff now. Like even bartenders are involved in it. It's like bad.
Yeah, and I think I was actually I think it actually happened at a brewery I was at right before the concert,
Mm,
and so my husband called them just to say like, "Hey, just want you to know this happened under, like, your roof. Like, we're not trying to, like, press charges or anything like that,
right.
but, like, I just want you to know, and maybe your bartenders can look out." But I would not be surprised if the bartender was involved in that, honestly, because I went up and, like, I kinda have a feeling of when it happened,
Yeah.
and when I started to feel, like, not myself and more. I thought I was just super drunk at the time because I was drinking alcohol and, like,
Yeah.
but then I was like, I haven't had that much to drink. Like, I've never felt this way even when I've done multiple shots. Like, this is different. Something is weird. And it wasn't even until the next day that I realized what had actually happened. So,
Yeah, and
yeah.
you're so out of it. That
Mhm.
actually has happened to me as an adult, and
Oh.
I was with since then, and I was with a friend. Thank goodness you're not alone
Mhm. Yeah.
when it happens, and you weren't alone. But it hits you
Mhm.
so fast. If anybody's ever been through that, you don't even know what to do, and all of a sudden you just feel like almost like an out of body experience,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
it's very scary. And so I'm assuming it was something like that. I
Yeah.
don't know back then like what they were using, but
Mm.
honestly, like to this day, like people are like my only regret, I guess I'll put it this way. My only regret is that I pray that me not coming forward, nobody else had to go through that,
Yeah.
from these predators.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
my only I hope that this never happen again to
Yeah.
anybody else by these people.
Do you
And
remember the boys? Or at least the
some of
3?
them, I have
Yeah.
an idea. I know there was at least 3, and I'm pretty sure who 2 of them were
Okay. Yeah.
supposed to be my friends,
So what
but
happened after that then? If you just did you just go on being friends with them after that?
No, I just went back to school. Yeah. And I pretended like nothing happened. I mean, we didn't hang out or anything,
Yeah.
but I just went back to school like nothing ever happened and pretended that everything was fine.
Sure.
And nobody. And this is the part, kids talk, people talk. Nobody ever has said a word to me about it. Kids were talking about it at school. And my friends, people that know me, no one has ever said a word, even since I've come, since the show has launched and my whole story is broadcast all over the world, now. And no one's ever said a word to me about it. Like, hey,
I wonder
Tracy,
if,
I may have heard something back then. Like nothing.
yeah, I wonder if those people have heard and are thinking back like, oh, that was me as a stupid teenager. Like, I don't know. Or maybe they're continuing to be predators. Who knows? I guess.
Well, and with, when I started my healing journey 5 years ago, even a couple years ago, I just told my parents about the assault a year and a half ago.
Wow.
I literally never told them. And I had to tell them because the show was starting.
Yeah.
And so, I wanted to be respectful that, from them that they knew. But by then, even if I was to press charges, the statute of limitation had already run out in the state of Nevada. And, am I going to go after for civil charges? No, I'm not going to waste my time and energy. And I just trust that the universe will kind of handle things the way they see fit and, karma.
Yeah, for sure.
Not that I wish harm on anyone, but
Sure. Yeah.
I had to let it go at that point.
Yeah. So what triggered the healing journey 5 years ago then?
COVID. So
Lots of time to think.
yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
You know what? COVID started and I was actually engaged at the time. And COVID started and I started meditating. And I had always been kind of interested and fascinated with meditation. And I started meditating and very quickly I started getting like these downloads of information. And I realized that I hadn't really healed at all from anything because I hadn't talked to anybody about anything really ever. I mean, it wasn't that it was a big secret, obviously, because everyone knew, they didn't know about the assault, but, I had never really dealt with any of it. And meditation brought all this out. And I started seeing do you meditate?
I go through phases.
Okay.
Because I do have very much an ADHD brain. And
Oh, yeah.
It is very hard for me to sit there.
Oh, yeah.
But I have gone through phases where I very much enjoyed it. So
yeah. So for anybody who's listening that doesn't meditate, and they call it a practice for a reason because it's a big challenge. But when I started meditating, all of a sudden I learned about my inner child. And I learned this I did guided meditation through YouTube. I found some people on there that I really resonated with that I like. So I started doing guided meditation with them. And I learned about my inner child. And I'm like, what the heck's my inner child? Well, you meditate and you find out real quick. And I realized I saw this inner child and what she needed and what she never got. And it wasn't even just physical. It was like the mental and everything. And I saw all this and I was like, I realized I'm a mess. I haven't been dealing with anything. And I saw this little child who needed so much. And I just got all this information. I was like, holy crap, what am I going to do? But I also learned that the person I was engaged with wasn't the person for me.
That'd be tough.
Not really.
No? Okay.
No. You know why? Because it was so clear. The answers you can get through meditation are incredible.
Yeah.
And when they're so clear, you're kind of like, okay. It just, how you see something and you can't unsee it kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was like that. And I was like, this is not the person I should be with. And so called off that engagement, moved to Florida. So I'm like, well, if we're going to have to quarantine, I might as well go to Florida and do it on the beach.
That sounds great.
Because I was flexible with my job. So I
Yeah.
was able to work anywhere kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I moved down to Florida and I really started diving into my meditation practice. And then all of a sudden I learned beside your inner child, there's this higher self.
Mm.
And I'm like, what's your higher self? Well, your higher self is basically the most beautiful, perfect version of you that you don't ever see yourself as, right? Because we're our own worst critics.
For sure. Yeah.
So I learned about my higher self and I'm like, my gosh, like if anyone's ever wondering how they can be perceived to the world, meditate about your higher self and you will see like how you can and what will be seen by the world. And it was so profound because I'm like, I can combine these two incredible, this inner child with my higher self and get all these answers. Like they flow through me. And it was really something. And it really, learning like what a mess I was and how I had so much to deal with it was overwhelming. But on the other hand, I'm like, I've got these little tools now that can help me through it.
Yeah.
And I had tried therapy over the years. I had tried therapy and, 2 years later, you're still talking in circles. Not that there's anything wrong with therapists, because I think there's amazing ones out there, especially now. There's so much more in tune with helping trauma survivors. But I was just like this, I need to find some other modalities. So I was actually on vacation almost 2 years ago. I was on vacation and I was on this beautiful villa overlooking the Caribbean Sea and I was reading this book. And I'm reading this book and this book is talking about MDMA therapy.
Oh, I've heard of that, but yeah.
Well, let me just tell you, when I
Yeah.
read about this MDMA therapy, because I'm always trying to figure out like different modalities and things like that. Thank God I was sitting down because there was something about it that resonated with me when I was reading what it was and all this stuff that I was like, I have got to figure out like what this is. And so when I got home, I of course went down a rabbit hole and started doing all kinds of research. And I was lucky enough to find a therapy center by me that does it.
Nice.
And so to make a very long story short, I reached out to them. I had to fill out tons of intake forms. It was months of quest back and because they're not just like, oh, you want to do MDMA? No problem.
Yeah.
Come on over. It's
Yeah.
not like that. They have to know what your trauma is, like where you are, what medications you're on, if you have heart disease, if you have high blood pressure, so it was a lot. And the psychiatrist that owns this therapy center was like, yeah, you would be a great candidate for MDMA. So she paired me up with Allie, my angel, my therapist, Allie. And I've actually had her on the show. She's episode 8. If anybody listening wants to learn more about my whole journey in detail, it's in there. But she paired me up with her and she couldn't have paired me with a more perfect person.
Love that.
It was absolutely like I felt so safe and with her and trusted her with it because it's scary. Like you don't know what's going to happen. And
yeah. Well, especially if you're not somebody that's done a lot of those types of drugs before too, like, and then, you're going to go on that journey and who knows what's going to come up.
Well,
right.
And that's the thing. And so for anyone listening, what MDMA is it's not legal, first of all. But what it is it's the key ingredient in ecstasy. But it's not the street drug ecstasy. But it was actually legal until 1985. And then
war on drugs. They went and was all illegal after that.
And then the FDA, and you can find all the research on YouTube about it. But it's helped so many soldiers that have come back with PTSD and things like that. And so, but what it does is it's a microdose that they give you.
Okay.
And you're not seeing purple elephants flying around or on, it's nothing like that. But they give you take this and you get super deep into your subconscious that way deeper than you could even do with hypnosis or meditation. Like
Okay.
you get really deep. So I had already done so much work that because I was scared, like you said, you don't know. And I'm like, what's going to come up? Am I going to remember the accident? Am I going to remember the assault? Like what's going to come through? But I was like, you know what? I can handle it. I've already done so much work. I can do this. And I had so much trust in Allie with her that I knew she was there with me. It was a 4.5 hour session.
Wow.
And I knew she was there with me, though, literally holding my hand through the whole thing. And she had so much experience with it. She's a plant-based practitioner. So a plant therapy based. So she's very educated on what could happen, and she prepared me. And it was what I saw blew my mind. It was so profound. It's changed my life. It was a gift. And what happens, when you go through trauma and people are calling it the big T and the little T, trauma's trauma. Right?
I was going to say, why are we doing big and little? Like trauma's trauma.
Like maybe somebody's like, somebody stole my credit card and charged, up the wazoo. That would be maybe a little T. But everybody handles things differently. So like trauma is trauma. But what happens when you go through trauma, it turns off your happy chemicals in your brain. It's shut off. Like it's not. And so what the MDMA did is it turned everything back on like a light switch.
Okay.
It was like, you're happy again. I found my happy, right?
Yeah.
And it turned it back on, but I was able to see things like with my cousins and even just growing up, because my life has been so chaotic because of everything and the choices I've made and the people I've had in my life. Like when you go through trauma, you just want to be loved and accepted. So you become this like kind of like toxic people pleaser. And so I started seeing all these things and I'm like, that's why that happened. That's why I had that boyfriend and I put up with all this crap. And that's why I had this friend and I let this friend treat me like shit. And that's why it all became so clear. And so it was just so amazing. And I remember I kept saying to her, like, cause I spent decades not dealing with this. And I kept saying like, I've wasted so much time. I've wasted so much time because I didn't see the light, right? I couldn't see the light. And so I had to like forgive myself. I actually had to go through a period where I kind of grieved that person and that child that never got that life that she deserved. I also had to grieve and forgive myself for like the choices I've made all these years. Not that they were my fault, but I missed out on so much,
Yeah.
And so I had to, and it really was enlightening to see everything. And I still like when you're going through that journey, you know exactly what's going on. I could have gotten up and gone to the bathroom if I needed to. You're not like completely out of it where you're like drooling and,
Yeah.
it's not like that. But you're aware of everything going on. And I would just start babbling on and on. So she would be taking notes and she's like, okay, we'll go back to this. Let's stay where you are. Like, so she would keep me on track with everything. But it was so like when the session was done, because my boyfriend took me, and when the session was done, she's like, now listen, this next week or two, things are still going to keep popping up. So don't be surprised, write in your journal, don't be surprised when things come up. And boy, did they. Things still were, came up but not in a bad way. It was just more of a realization type thing. Well, I don't put up with crap from people anymore. My circle has become super small, super, super small. I've set really healthy boundaries in my life because some people, you kind of have to look at people in your life who make you happy or make you stressed out. And I've had to distance myself. A lot of people kind of just fall off naturally too,
Yeah, it's a lot easier with friends for that to happen, I
Yeah.
feel like. Family is a little bit harder when you have toxic family members because,
Yeah, and I don't talk to any of them.
yeah,
I
yeah.
really don't, and I can't be bothered, to be I
Mhm.
don't have room for that, but what's happened by doing that is it's opened up space for all these new incredible people to come into my life and these
Yes.
incredible opportunities, and, like, I never in a million years would have thought I would have written a book. I'm not a writer, I could barely get through school, let
Yeah.
alone write. And now I've got this memoir coming out over the holidays. And, it's just opened up all these opportunities and these amazing, incredible people and support system that's come in
Mhm.
and stuff because I've let go of the garbage.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so these are things that I want people to hear, like no matter what your journey is, what modality you use, because there's so many, like hypnosis is incredible. Like I
Yeah.
had an incredible hypnosis session last year that was like mind blowing. And I'm all in now. I'm like, what else can you show me? Because
Yeah.
people are like, well, you're healed now, this and that. And I'm like, no.
No.
And I go, to be honest, I don't ever want to be healed
Mhm.
because that means I'm done learning. I'm
Mm.
done growing. I'm done expanding everything that the universe wants to show me. So I don't ever want to be healed, ever.
Well, and also life still keeps happening, right? So,
Life
like,
happens.
stuff's going to it may not be as traumatic as what you've already been through,
Yeah.
but, like, family members die, like parents when they get old, like, that's
Yeah.
traumatic in itself. Like, there's a lot that just keeps happening in life. So I don't think we're ever done healing and growing.
No, and you really don't want to be.
Mhm.
Like if somebody said that to me, I'd be like, oh no, I'm not.
Yeah.
Don't you dare say that because I
Yeah.
want to keep going. And now it's like exciting. And I'm not going to
Mhm.
say that I don't get triggered. I
Yeah, so
still,
I was gonna ask because you mentioned earlier you wanted to talk about the setbacks
yeah.
that happen. I'm assuming that's similar to triggers.
So I do. I still get
Mhm.
triggered. I mean, it could be like, and sometimes I just triggered somebody recently on accident. I didn't intend to trigger
Oh,
this
yeah.
person, but I
Mhm.
triggered somebody. You would think somebody that's gone through this, I would be
Mhm.
really cautious, but I didn't. It wasn't intentional,
Yeah.
but it happened, and I still get triggered too. And one thing that I will say is there were times when I would be going, and I'm like, this is so great. And then all of a sudden something would happen and I would feel like I took 10 steps backwards. Well, I've learned that it wasn't that I took 10 steps backwards. It was because I hadn't learned the lesson yet.
Oh,
So
you're
maybe
right.
I learned 75% of it, but there's
Mhm.
still a little part that I hadn't learned the whole lesson yet. So I
Yeah.
I would really have to hone in on that and figure out why, what's the lesson here? Like, what am I missing?
Yeah.
And then I would figure it out and then I'd be back where I was.
Yeah.
So
It
that's
is
all it is.
It's so frustrating when that happens though, because I've been there too. Like, you're just
Oh
like, "Wait
yeah.
a minute. I thought I was so much further along than this. Like, why is this affecting me the way that it is?" And it
Yeah.
can be so frustrating, but I
And
like looking at
it
that
could
way.
even be 5% of it you're still missing. Like
Yeah.
you need 100% of the lesson. And so that's where you have to really dig deep and figure out what that is. But it's just a learning journey. That's
Yeah.
all it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, that's, same with grief and stuff like that. It never goes away fully. It's always still
No.
a piece of you. It's a piece of your journey, and so it doesn't ever just disappear, but you learn how to deal with it a little bit better as you get
Right.
further
Right.
along. Mhm. So
And you can get excited about it. About
mhm.
like now I'm
Yeah.
excited about what's next. What's
Mhm.
next for me? Like what else? What haven't I learned yet?
Mhm.
What still is it? What still do I need to deal with?
Yeah.
And stuff. Like I still have a ton of work to do.
Mhm.
I don't have it all together. I don't have all the answers, but for my journey, I still, I'm still working like every
Mhm.
day,
Yeah.
at it.
So, question about the person you triggered. I mean, you don't have to give me specifics, but I'm curious about how how did you find out you triggered that person? And then how did you handle it after that?
Yeah, it was my so I was triggered
Mhm.
by
Okay.
something,
Okay.
and then my reaction to that triggered this other person.
Mm-hmm.
And I had reacted poorly in this situation that happened. And by doing that, it triggered this other person. And it was really hurtful, like really. So here, hurt people, right?
Well, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it was a domino effect.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like I am so on top of trauma. I'm trying to help people get over their trauma. And yet I'm re-traumatized. I re-traumatize somebody unintentionally, but you never know what you're going to say that is going to be a trigger for somebody. You don't know. I mean, you could say something like, I don't drink whole milk, and that could be a trigger for, it could be something so stupid. You just don't know what it's going to be.
You don't know what everybody's been through.
You don't. And so and it's not like you have to walk on eggshells, but it's been a very big learning experience for me, and to be able to talk about it openly with this person and stuff, has helped. And, of course I felt horrible.
Yeah. Did they come to you and tell you, or did you?
Yeah, it was a big thing. It was like a big thing. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like I did not, like, of course, don't intentionally want to hurt somebody or do that, but I did. It doesn't matter whether I wanted to or not. It happened. And so it was a big learning thing for me,
And I think that's usually how that stuff happens, right? People usually have good intentions. They're not trying to be jerks, not in all circumstances, but most of the time. I struggled with many years of infertility, and I just recently did an episode on here about all the things that people say and that you shouldn't say. And, don't tell me you're pregnant by sending me a baby shower invite in the mail. Like, things like that I understand that nobody's intentionally trying to hurt me, and everybody wants to help, and everybody wants to offer suggestions, and everybody thinks they have the answer. But I think the biggest thing is I understand that people want to help and have good intentions. But if you could at least acknowledge that maybe that was not how you should have handled that and apologize, I think that's huge. The fact that you're having that conversation and you've apologized and acknowledged it, like, I think that in itself, there's a lot of people that would just be like, well, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, and just get defensive,
Well, and and also part of healing and like being able to identify that and how it makes you feel is to be able, like, when somebody does trigger you, to be able to tell them. And to be able to tell them in a healthy way.
And that's scary because, we've all had situations where we've tried to do that, whether it was when we were younger or whatever, and somebody exploded on you and got upset, and then all of a sudden it's your fault and not theirs because you hurt their feelings because they didn't mean to hurt your feelings. Yeah.
And another thing you need to think, like, you don't know where a lot of people are on their own healing journey. So if you say if I said, Tawny, that really, what you said to me yesterday was a real trigger. I don't know. You could get defensive.
Yeah.
You could get really like pissed off and upset, but just be prepared for be confident that you can kindly or, let people know if you're triggered, but be prepared that the reaction might not be what you want. But, so there's you got to look at both sides of it, because we're all at different levels with it.
But I do think if you're somebody that unfortunately, we have to go through shit to have a little bit more compassion, and I hate that.
Yeah.
But, it just does seem, I've had so many people on here and with my own journey and my friends and stuff like that, like, you just get more compassion the more shit you've been through, unfortunately.
I know.
So, and I think we just need to have compassion and understanding and just acknowledge that we're also not perfect, and we're going to hurt people's feelings, and we're going to say the wrong thing, and we're going to, and just, I think it's huge to just acknowledge it and apologize and be like, yeah, I didn't mean to do that. Like,
yeah, I did. And you're right. And I'm sorry. And, I'm an asshole, it's like, what else, but it has been, and like, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like, very informative for me, I guess, to have to, unfortunately for the person on the receiving end, it wasn't, but it was very informative for me to have to see that, I can still trigger people on accident and not mean it.
Yeah.
And it's funny too, because depending on like where your level you're at in your journey, I talk about this all the time. I could go out now. I'm so aware like of people's energy and things like that. And I could go out now and I could look across the room. I don't even have to have a conversation with somebody. I could be like, oh, they've done no work at all.
Mm-hmm.
I can spot it a mile away. And it's not funny. I'm not saying it to be funny, but I'm like, they've done zero work. You can tell and you feel for people because it's like, I just start somewhere, one little step, but everyone's timing's different.
Man, I mean, I didn't start going through my infertility till my, late 20s, but like sometimes I wish I just knew what I know now in my 20s, like so badly. Cause like you were saying, you're like, oh, I just started this 5 years ago and I wish I would have started sooner. Like I feel the same way just because I wish I would have had that knowledge and I like a longer time period with that knowledge too,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I went through 2 rounds of IVF, so that were unsuccessful.
Oh,
So
I'm so sorry.
I know, and I know that what it does to you physically, mentally, and emotionally, it makes you a crazy person. And but if honest, because it was really tough. Like and if it was, I think to be totally honest, if it wasn't for meditation, I think I would have killed myself. That's how bad the effects of the injections had on me. Like it was I went through such a deep depression. Like my chemical imbalance was so bad. My anxiety was through the roof. My anxiety was so bad. Like I couldn't even leave the house. Like that's how bad my anxiety was. And nobody tells you because you don't know. Like not everybody probably goes through that, but it was so bad. And if I hadn't learned about meditation, I seriously think I probably would have committed suicide. It was that bad.
Yeah, I had one moment, and I've talked about it a little bit on here before, but I had one moment, and I'll never forget, like we were camping. I think I was in the middle of a transfer. I had the transfer done and I was waiting. You have to keep doing the drugs for the 2 weeks until they do the blood test. And middle of the night, I woke up and just spiraled for probably 2 or 3 days into the darkest, deepest place I've ever been in my life. Like it was the first time that I ever got an understanding of depression, of suicidal thoughts, of anxiety. And I mean, I don't even know what brought me out of it, but it took me days to finally come out of it. And I was just like, what if this doesn't work? If it doesn't work, I'm the worst. I'm not worthy of the darkest, and anyway, it got even darker than that, but like the darkest spiral ever. And it was very eye-opening for me because I had never experienced anything that bad before. I mean, the infertility stuff was awful, but I think it was probably the first time I started thinking that, if this is something that's never going to work, that's my reality. And that was not what I wanted. So. Yeah.
And I never, even through the accident, the assault, I never had suicidal ideations ever, like ever. And this going through IVF and the drugs they put in your body triggered that in me. It was it was very dangerous. And unless you've been through it, you can't, and people just don't understand. And I know some people that go through it with a breeze and they don't have problems. Bless
or
them.
They do it,
thank God.
They do their one retrieval, they do their one transfer, they're pregnant, they move, and not to say that that's not traumatizing in itself. It definitely is. But yeah, I mean, I had to finally face the facts that I wasn't going to be a mom. So
yeah. And I've got my fur babies.
Yes. Oh yeah, same. I have a fur baby as well.
Yeah. Which, it's, I've had to accept it too, but it's just, and that's traumatizing in itself. And then COVID, and then, we all went through the pandemic, and there's just, and now the world's totally nuts. Like everybody's like a nutcase in the world right now. So we're all going through this really weird time, and it's hard because it's like, and it comes back to, in a very selfish way, you have to, in my keynotes, I say, no one's coming to save you. No one. And so and I talk about like becoming your own hero and what you need, who's your hero? Look in the freaking mirror. That's who your hero is going to be.
Yeah.
And I talk about that when I do my keynotes, and I'm like, it's brutally honest, you guys, but no one's coming to save you. No one.
Yeah. And we get the fun life. So
yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of like harsh realities with it, but they don't have to be devastating. They can
Yeah.
be like flip the switch and make it and
Mhm.
turn it into a positive, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that with me, by the way. That was a random
I know. Well, you start talking about it, I'm like, oh, I went through 2 rounds. I almost killed myself. It's like awful.
dude. It
Like
was
people
bad.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did 4 egg retrievals, and I think I did 8 embryo transfers and never had any
Oh,
success. So, yeah. I kept going. I kept thinking, at some point this is gonna work if I just keep trying, right?
well, I
And
know. And
then
it ironically, like they couldn't pinpoint why. Cause they're like,
yeah, same.
everything on paper
Mhm.
medically with you is fine.
Yep.
Like they
Mhm.
couldn't figure out what was going on. They never did. They never figured it
Mhm.
out. So
Yeah,
it
our
is.
official diagnosis is unexplained infertility.
Me
So
too. Yeah. Oh, so you're the same. You have the same thing I have.
yeah, man, we should do another episode on that. I could talk
Oh,
for hours.
God, it was awful. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
awful.
Okay, so you have your podcast is Trauma Rock Stars, which we
Yes.
can link in the description to this. When did you start doing that?
Well, so real quick, I'll tell you the story. So for years, I actually worked in the music industry.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, for a very long time. And when a lot of people that go through trauma like live crazy lives and like to live in really loud, busy cities. And that's
Mhm.
what I did in LA and Vegas. I worked in the
Okay.
music industry for many years, and it's just very near and dear to my heart. But when I had gone through my journey and learned about MDMA and that there's like all these other amazing modalities out there, I'm like, the world needs to know about
Mm,
this. So I'm like, I'm going to start a podcast. And it was just became a passion project.
yeah,
And I'm like, the name is Trauma Rock Stars. That's it.
love that.
Because with my music background and all my
Yeah.
episodes are around the music framework. And who
Okay.
doesn't love music?
Yeah.
And so, and if you're just trying to be the best version of yourself, or no matter where you are in your journey, you're a rock star. So that's how the name was born. And I launched last year,
Okay.
July,
Okay.
and my accident was July 10th. So every year on
Oh,
that day was very difficult for me.
yeah.
And so I launched the podcast on July 10th of 2025.
Oh, that's
I
cool.
wanted to turn that date into something really positive,
Mhm.
and my cousins didn't die in vain, and I wanted to be
Yeah.
able to contribute, like, if even if I help one person kind of
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
and interviewing all these other trauma survivors and their journeys alone has been so healing,
Mhm. Yeah.
and being able to talk to other people and what's worked for them, what hasn't worked for them,
Yeah.
has been great. And then that's how Trauma Rockstars was born.
Mhm.
And then now I wrote this memoir. It's like a hybrid memoir slash self-help.
Okay.
And I guide you kind of through things I needed that
Mhm.
I didn't have for me during it. Like the end of each chapter, I have a question for the readers,
Okay.
to reflect on and things like that. And so I'm hoping, well, it'll be out by the holidays. So probably
Okay.
beginning of December.
Okay. Do we have a title yet or still working on that?
We do. It's called Rockstar Resilience. You're a hot
Oh,
mess. Embrace it and own it.
love it.
Yep.
Love it. Well, that's
Yep.
exciting. And then
Yeah.
you work with others on their trauma. So what does that
hmm
look like? Do you do one-on-ones? Do you
hmm
have courses? What does that look like?
Both. I have both. I have on my website, everything's Trauma Rockstars.
Mhm.
So I'm on all platforms. It's super easy to find. But I have on the website, I have a free life audit quiz that you can go
Oh,
take.
okay.
And it's 8 questions, and it literally takes like 3 minutes.
Okay.
But it tells you where you are, like with where you're putting your energy deposits, I guess,
Mhm.
let's say. So you take this quiz, and it kind of gives you, there's 4 different areas that you can be in.
Okay.
None's better than the other, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? But it gives you some idea of where you're at. So
Mhm.
depending on what your results are, I offer a 30-day, it's called the Rockstar 30,
Okay.
and it's a 30-day guided downloadable PDF, and I guide you through each day to kind of help you just kind of get in touch with some things that you might not have been thinking about.
Okay.
Your boundary setting, your where you're putting your energy deposits. There's some things, it just gets you thinking. So where you
Yeah.
start at day 1 and where you end at day 30, it's a really cool journey. And I designed it for people that are very, very busy, high achievers. So people that don't have a lot of time and want to cut the bullshit out of the healing. So it literally, the downloadable PDF, it literally takes 10 minutes a day. If you can't give
Yeah.
yourself 10 minutes a day to go in there and just follow along,
Yeah.
and let me guide you through it, you can do that for yourself, So that's really exciting. And there's been a lot of really positive feedback. People are like, you really got me thinking. Like, I wasn't even thinking about that. And then to kind of add a little fun spin to it, I created a Spotify channel, and it's called
Oh.
Trauma Rockstars Songs That Saved Us.
Oh, fun.
And it's all these super awesome songs that I love and that listeners and supporters have contributed. So I'll add, like, if you have songs you love, let me know and I'll add it to the playlist. And it's just this growing Spotify channel of all these amazing and inspirational songs that have gotten me and a ton of other people through their journeys.
Yeah.
So, because everything's music with me. So,
Mm.
you know.
I do love me. One of my favorite things to do is go to concerts, and
Oh, I know, me too.
yeah.
Yeah, well, and after, working in the business for so long.
Yeah.
So I really like the channel, the Spotify channel, because it really it's like, it's interactive. So we can,
Yeah.
share me those songs that meant something to you and I'll add them, and
Yeah.
within reason. I mean,
Yeah.
if somebody, sends me something crazy, like let's get drunk and screw or something, I'm not going to I'm
Right.
not going to add that to it, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean. But
Yeah.
it's been really fun, and people are like, I have it on repeat and I listen to it all day, and
Yeah.
it's just been, it's been
Nice.
great.
So if anybody wants to work with you, it's Trauma Rocks. Like, what's the best way to get a hold of you typically?
Just go to you can reach me through, the website. You can email me, like, podcast@traumarockstars.com. You can reach, and I will answer. It's not a bot or AI. Like, people reach out, email me constantly, or you can leave comments after the show. And people have left comments and left me their email addresses, and I've reached out to them directly. There's tons of ways to get in touch with me, and I'm very active on socials and
Okay.
everything. So, yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your story. You've been through a lot, but I love the journey you've gone on, and you're such a beautiful soul. So thank you for coming
Thank
on
you.
and sharing that and all the things you're doing in this world. Keep doing them. I'm excited for your book. I'm going to keep my eye out for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So do you have any parting words for my listeners before we go?
Yeah, I mean, I think I said, healing is scary, and we avoid a lot of it because of fear, because it's everything's fear-based. And I think if you can look at me, like, look at what you have to look forward to when you go through this journey, and look at it. Yes, is it going to be easy? Hell no. Is there going to be setbacks? You're damn right there's going to be. But look at them as it's a gift the universe is giving you, like, whether you believe in God or the universe or whatever, whoever you pray to or meditate with or manifest. It's the universe trying to teach you something. So look at it as a learning journey, and you really have all the tools within you to do it. You really do. And don't get overwhelmed with the meditation thing either, because it is. Like, I have days that I'm like, that sucked, but I at least tried it. I at least did it for the day, and just start with 5 minutes, 5 minutes, and I highly recommend guided meditation to start with on YouTube. It's free on YouTube. Like, none of this costs anything money wise. Like, you can do it all. You have all the tools out there. Listen to your shows, listen to some of my episodes, that other
Yep.
people you learn from what other people have done, and it's so helpful. And I've had people reach out to me and been like, I just watched so-and-so's episode. Can you get me in touch with them? And I'm like, yes, I
Oh,
can absolutely get you in touch with them. And
yeah.
I've made that connection because that person just really resonated with them.
Mhm.
And so there's so much support out there for you.
Mhm.
And some of the best support you're going to get are from people you don't even know yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So be excited about who's coming into your life.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you so much. This has been so fun. I mean, fun and tough. We've had some tough
Yeah.
conversations, but I've really enjoyed chatting with you. So thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.